All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. You ready yet for spring to arrive? Even the true diehard fans of SnowTALK, I think, are getting there and real fast. All right. I know that trend's getting to us quickly. I hope you guys are warm and safe where you're at, whether it's at home watching or perhaps you're at work in a nice, warm, cozy office. It has been just a really tough morning when it comes to this cold weather, and especially when you don't get a snowstorm out of it. I think it's a little different when you get snow with cold. I think it doesn't seem to go over as bad, but when you're dry and you get this brutally cold stuff to come in, yeah, that's when it gets a little rough out there. I totally understand that. But we do have at least some thawing coming our way, but winter is far from over, guys. We're not even to the halfway point yet. So we'll discuss a little more of the long term in a second. As always, you guys can comment, and you're doing so. Appreciate you doing this on our social media side. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Let me know, you already are doing this as well, what you dropped to. Several of you, looks like about 1 below to 4 below 0 seems to be a common theme I'm noticing. A lot of the ports, especially in the metro, that seems to be the common range. We'll get to the some of the numbers here in just a second. It's been the wind chill that's been probably the most brutal, though, for this morning. But we're on the other side of this. We're going to start to slowly ease out as we head through the rest of the day. The worst of it, of this cold snap, and I still think the worst of it of the entire winter season, we've passed. I think we're on the other side of that. I hope I haven't jinxed us, because I tend to do that. But right now, I think we're okay. Let's start with the snowboard. We'll begin with that because we do have a few items out there on the list that we're going to be tracking. While there is a chance for a few flurries today, I just don't. It's going to be more like Arctic dust kind of look to it. It's not anything to worry about and not anything that's going to cause a problem. We get into tomorrow, light snow showers
especially in the afternoon hours, will come into play. We'll look at futurecast with that. And then the weekend, still a thorn in our side. Still have to go rain or snow with that. Or if I had another or on that, it would be or nothing. If that makes sense. And then toward the end of the month and beginning of the new month, perhaps Groundhog Day, Phil's always up to shenanigans. Looks to be a rain to snow setup. I will try to explain that the best I can. All right, this is something we don't see often, but it's certainly not unheard of. If you've lived here for a long time, especially, you've likely seen this before, whether it's on TV or in person. These ice flows that form along the Ohio River, usually on the edges, and especially right there where there's a little bit of an eddy, a little bit of a spin you see there on the Jeffersonville side of the Ohio is where you're looking at. Now, we've seen this. We saw it in 2022. Actually, we saw it briefly last year, but in 2022, it stood out. And obviously, I remember in 94, it got real close to rivaling the worst that I can ever recall that's been recorded was, of course, in 1977, when everyone was walking to and from Indiana on Ohio. How we would never advise that. My safety disclosure. A lot of you have images of that. And if you have some of those photos, feel free to share them. On the Wave Weather app, there's a photo section on there. So submit those because I always wanted to see that. And it's just a reminder that it could always be worse. It could always be worse, right? I mean, even in 1994, we've reached our coldest we've ever been at 22 below zero in Louisville. And the wind chill was about 32 to 35 below. And I went out to go try to find bread and milk for my family. I don't know why I volunteered, kids thing, things we do. But I will remember always walking or trying to walk as the snow was past my knees toward Old Shep and Fern Valley Road. And there was a semi that was on its side near the Provo, the bowling alley on its side, jackknife up into the air. And the military were actually roaming the streets at that point because we needed all the help we can get. We didn't have SUVs, at least not to the level that we do now. The 94 storm changed that for our area forever, really. It allowed SUVs to become almost a necessity. Anyway, I digress. I'm just saying we've had worse scenarios before, but we've had such mild winters as of late, especially in the past decade, that this type of cold snap and extended cold and these waves of winter storms passing through just certainly get our attention. Now, down to the south, obviously, they're having their 1994 down there across the Gulf Coast. We'll look at that a little more here in just a second. All right, numbers 7 in Louisville right now. I see all positive numbers now, and at least the reporting stations in the metro. That's a good sign. We dropped officially to 4 in Louisville, not a record. The record was 9 below zero. We bounced around roughly about 3 to 4, but they round. So 4 will be the official number. I think my house, I dropped to 0, and your numbers are flowing in right now. So again, appreciate that. Looks like a lot of, again, 4 and 5 below zeros that we have in the area. All right, so the cold weather set up. We had a brief alert day this morning because the wind chills were getting there to as cold as 14 below zero at times. Where do they stand now? Well, North Vernon still coming in about 11 below. Look at Cincinnati, 14 below zero there, but 5 below. I mean, still very, very cold out, even here in Louisville. Cold weather advisory should be lessening. They're officially going to expire in about 50 minutes. So I think, Adam, I saw your comment, or Austin, I'm sorry, about the advisory. It's about to expire. So it's we're past the point now of even talking about the advisory. So that's the reason why you're not seeing anything about it. All right, we're beyond that point. But we'll be improving slowly today, although I will say that the past couple of days, we've only had highs in the mid-teens. So today's high into the mid-20s, okay, may not feel like a heat wave, but it's an improvement. We'll certainly take it. Okay, it's hard to see the clouds. They're very high, thin clouds moving in. There is just a bit of moisture drifting from Illinois over into Kentucky. So let me just focus on the radar only. You see just a few hints of flurries. This is pretty common in very cold Arctic setups. You can get a few flakes to fly out of this. Indiana, better opportunity than Kentucky will have. But you really just won't even notice. It's going to be such a minor setup. This is not the Clipper. That's still to come. All right, the winter storm of 2025 that people will talk about for years and their kids will talk about will be what happened across the Gulf Coast, I-10 area, and Highway 17 and I-95 as you head toward the Carolinas, starting to slowly but surely wind down. It's still hugging some of the beaches there. Now, this is just an estimate. I think Houston was about 3 to some cases up to close to 5 inches. Lafayette was about 10.5. And I think New Orleans was 9.5. Parts of Pensacola, more than 8 inches of snow fell there in the Panhandle. And again, some of these estimates run a little high because sleet fell in many areas. So the interpretation by some of the modeling was all snow, and that wasn't the case for Georgia and the Carolinas. There was a lot of sleet and freeze and rain involved, but the average of that combination seems to be about, I would say, 1 to as much as 6 inches into around, say, Myrtle Beach that has been reported there. Even snow, again, right down the northern part of Florida. Let me show you what it looks like. This is going to be right now off the coast of South Carolina, not too far away from Folly Beach. And type 1, if you've ever been to Folly before, I'm sure a lot of you have. But man, it's I used to live in this area, so it's just wild to even think about it. I've seen snow fall in the Carolinas before. Well, one time I've seen it snow there, and that was back in 2008. Was the last time I saw it snow in that area. But look at that. It was just wow. You try to escape winter and you go to your beach house and then you have no sand because you got to deal with snow everywhere. And this is the similar look, of course, as you guys know, all the way to New Orleans and the beaches into Florida. So it's just wicked. And it won't, it's going to stay for about another 24 hours, but they have an outlook of 60s and 70s and they're extended. As typically the case, they rebound nicely there compared to what we can do in our area. But, you know, we always say try to escape all this, get to somewhere warm, but it's tough when the warm spots are snowier than you are. In fact, even here in Louisville, we're running colder than what Chicago is. You don't get to see that very often for the 22nd day of January. So everything's been a bit displaced. Very dry in the Midwest, by the way. They're running well behind on snowfall there because they've been in the core of the Arctic air, which Arctic air just cannot hold a lot of moisture. But that storm track, that's where you want to be if you want the bigger snows. We were in it initially, and then it just kept being overwhelming and pushing down to I-10. Now we're trying to see how much of a retreat we're about to witness. And yes, that means the winter storm potential and threats will start going back north again. Where we fit into that puzzle, that's the biggest question we've got as we head down the road. Let's cover first off futurecast in the short term. I mentioned a few flurries today. We'll drop tonight roughly into the teens, upper teens. We're not looking at single digits tonight, thank goodness, but it's still gonna be cold. All right, the two clippers for Thursday and Friday. Thursday right now it looks to be the main one. The one on Friday has nearly just wiped off the map. So I'm not focusing on Friday anymore. I'm just focused on the one here on Thursday, and we'll see if Friday comes back to life. But right now, it's mainly the Thursday wave, and it's mainly Thursday afternoon. Now, the freezing mark will get up near the area. I don't know if we'll be able to cross it. Usually when the deep freeze like this, it is a little tough to get on the warmer side of the numbers when they roll in like this. But either way, it looks to be minor, but there is at least some potential for a couple of heavier snow showers that could put down a very light coating, but it looks very blotchy. So can't really draw a snow map for it, and it's not anything overly concerning for right now. We'll watch it. Clippers always are sneaky, but it's got limited moisture, as always the case, and it's moving fast. I will say, though, that after it moves by, there is another drop in temperature. Now, we'll have to monitor this to see how low we go, especially if you're still able to hold on to some snow on the ground. And some of you still have snow on the ground in your yard, a couple of inches still. You are more at risk to see temperatures a little closer to 10 Thursday night and early Friday. So I don't want to say we're done with the really cold nights. We're just done with the brutal ones that are like this morning that we've had. But still, you can get down there to about 10. I think Louisville is going to be a few degrees above that, probably about 15 to 17, somewhere in that range. But cold, and that will lead to a cold Friday. So Friday will certainly be colder than what tomorrow will be. We do bounce back. That's good as we head into the weekend, but then we get into the complicated scenario of what will happen with the weekend wave. So let me try to explain this. Here is the GFS. It has been fairly consistent on the idea that moisture will get up to our area and the northern edge of that being all snow. Now, it is trending a little more on the snow side than rain side, but it's a little thumping of snow, if you will, with some minor amounts, but it does have measurable snow spitting out on its data, but it moves in the area, moves out fairly quick. This would be late Sunday into Monday. but it doesn't have a lot of friends. There are a lot of pieces of data that are highly against the scenario. From right now, I think it's still got to be listed as rain or snow, because I do think the rain or snow line is going to be pushing into our region anyway. I just don't know where it will be, if it even makes it up here with moisture. I don't know where that rain snow line would be just yet. And then as we head into Monday, you can see that hint is still there for Monday morning. And this is what worries me, is the timing more than anything, being near the commute on Monday. If the GFS holds, and it's got a couple friends, I'm not saying it's by itself completely, but if it holds on this idea, then yeah, then we may have something to track here as we head into early next week. Let me show you the Euro's idea. And here's the whole argument, by the way, of why it's a challenge. There are two things we're watching: a piece that dives out of Canada and this cutoff low that's trying to throw pieces of moisture at us from the Four Corners area. It's a race. Will this piece in Canada get here first? If so, it will push the storm track down a bit, at least initially, until that wave moves by, and then whatever rolls out of Texas can head our way. But by that point, we may be warm enough, in fact, we likely would be, that it would be rain that would be approaching. But if this piece is slower to arrive, then the little lead wave out of here, out of Texas, will have a chance to sneak in, and that's where the GFS keeps throwing out the snowfall idea. Other modeling, Canadian does not like this scenario. The ICON model, which is a German model, actually is very similar to GFS. But even the Euro ensembles, which I didn't put in today, because I don't want to go into too much detail yet. We'll get into that later this week. But even the Euro ensembles are still hinting that the GFS is not totally thrown off. And it's worth mentioning, not that I'm trying to start an argument here by any stretch, but the Euro did the worst on the Gulf Coast storm. GFS and the Canadian actually did the best, but the Euro just really didn't see what was going on until 24 hours before it developed. So the Euro does have some misses, guys. It's not always the best on everything. So that's the reason why at the moment ensembles are the best way to approach it, and we just have to keep the chances low on Sunday and Monday. Yes, it is absolutely possible that it will be a completely dry Sunday and Monday, and we have nothing to worry about. But the flip of the coin would be that we could have a wintry impact at a bad time, and I don't want everyone to be caught off guard. So it's hard to explain all this on TV, but that's why we have the blog. That's why we're talking now, so you guys can see a little bit behind the curtain of what we're looking at and how it's still very much a very low confidence scenario. Models have just not really done quite well here as of late. So you got to babysit them. We'll have more runs the next couple of days. I think we just need to get that northern piece sampled into the weather balloon data. That will not really happen until later on Friday. So it's all kind of last minute on getting key pieces. But that's always the case with a weekend system, it seems like, right? It's always a Thursday or Friday before we get data on it. I wish things were better in that scenario, but that's just kind of the way things are with forecasting and meteorology. Okay, so that's what we're going to be watching as that moves on by. After that moves through here, you can see that because the northern piece is overwhelming, it will eventually roll out whatever's in Texas. I agree with that. And again, that would likely be rain, but could go back to snow at the end of that. And that would then get us into that window of the very end of the month into early February, because potential is there to get some phasing. So this could be a slower system, a little more organized than what even the Euro is showing. Wouldn't surprise me. So it's not exactly an overly warm pattern, but it's warmer than it has been. So for all of us, it'll feel like, I would say feel like Florida, but I can't use that analogy right now. It feel like South Florida. It feel like, I don't know, Puerto Rico all the way down to Jamaica, Central America. We have to go really far south these days, guys, to kind of get some warm analogies. But you get the idea. We do have some improvements coming our way, but as you can see, their winter is not entirely done at all. All right, does that make sense? Type 3, if that makes sense with the pattern as it stands now, and you understand there are challenges, and you understand that it's a low confidence setup on Sunday and Monday. So I don't want you guys to get upset saying, where's the system? You guys say it was going to snow Sunday night, or it snows and you guys say it wasn't supposed to snow. I know some of y'all can be sneaky. All right, good. Like, so you know the threes. Good. What's the topic? My beard. Why is everybody talking about my beard? Hey, look, I'm just keeping it right now because I'm cold. And it keeps my face warm. Once it warms up, I'll be irritated. Trust me, a gray beard hurts. It does not feel good. Okay, so everyone seems okay. I got some of the beard questions kind of all lost in the comments. So if I miss your question, I apologize. You guys fly by really fast on here. Kim, I'm going to get to that in just a second. Long-term trends into February. I want another good snow. Well, Kim, you may get your wish because, as I mentioned, that storm track was pushed all the way down south. Now we'll see a reset going back northbound with the storm track. But keep in mind, there will be at times it'll go way north because I do see some warm signals. But I think we're going to have much more of an extreme back and forth. That's typically how February is a wild card month for us. And usually it's always Valentine's Day. I don't know why, but that always seems to be a wicked period for us for wintry weather. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw a chance of snow on Valentine's Day now because it would save me the trouble. So what about the pattern? Well, here's the thing. The pieces, as far as the cold sources, they're not really changing. They still look stuck even to early February. What still looks different, and it certainly is a big player, don't get me wrong, is just the jet orientation for the Pacific Ocean and the Western United States. That is changing, and that's the reason why some of these systems will be really fast on moving through. Some will have warm air associated with them because they'll block the ability to pull down very cold air because they're moving too fast. So there's several factors that we'll be analyzing as we head into the new month ahead, but I think that's going to be a pretty active topic and a big argument that we're going to have down the road with these weather models. But the cold source regions overall they're still here. They're still located where they can be reached. A little more east, no doubt. So that makes it a little harder to get them into the Ohio Valley. It's more of a threat for like the Great Lakes and into New England, which they really haven't had a lot of big wintry events. They had that big lake effect. You guys remember that? Was it October, November during football season? Everyone was talking about that as I feel like it's always a time period for the lake effect snow machine, but the lakes are frozen over now. So that's why you haven't heard about lake effect snow. You got to have unfrozen lakes to get the big lake effect snow. And now they're just sheets of ice up there. That shuts down their winter storm potential. They're just cold and dry. So that's why things are kind of flipped upside down. But again, we'll say this pattern flips back and forth here as we head into early November. I think the Pacific is absolutely going to be the catalyst on whether or not some of these systems that move on by will be more warm air dominant. We may get a lot of more mixed precip type events, a lot more of the rain to snow setups. I don't like those. Those are not fun. They're more of a headache than anything. But that's what it is. All right. At least we don't have the frozen tundra look showing up right now down the road. That's good. This I still think is the worst of the winters, what we just went through this morning as far as temperature and as far as snowfall. Not yet. I can't say that. We haven't gotten to the wet snows yet, guys. You know how those are fun. And we get those, at least the threat of those anyway, all the way through March and even April. Long way to go here. All right. I feel like you guys are more focused on the beer than you are on the weather. Aaron, you put a 4. You good? Marty, it'll be 80 in late March, right? Yeah. Well, you never know, but 80 in March, you know how that would not trend well for us to get that warm too early. That's what I worry in these scenarios is it's like a rubber band. Everything kind of stretches out and snaps back, and we don't want to get too warm, guys. I know you want warm weather, but too warm this time of year, you know what I'm going to say. So we don't want that. We want to just ease into it. That's not only good for us, for ourselves and our bodies, but it's good for our vegetation to ease back into that, and obviously for our infrastructure, because once we start to thaw out in the coming days, if there have been any cracks that have been established in some of our piping, exposed pipes, especially if you lost that snowpack, then they start to show, and water main breaks become a little more of a headline. Potholes, oh yeah, get ready. It's going to be up there, guys, on the pothole season. I got some out there, but it's going to rank up there in the top on the list there this season. I got a feeling. So get your cars ready for all that. Okay. Let's see. Amber, I'll get your question. First off, there's never a dumb question. All right. I hope this isn't a dumb question, but does the winter affects what our storms will look like in the spring and summer? Yes and no. If you've got a warm pattern, the Gulf of Mexico is crucial for us in severe weather forecasting and heavy rain events. If it's running warmer than normal, usually severe weather events are very prevalent. We ran into that last spring. You remember how busy we were last year. It was a very active spring season. The Gulf, no doubt, has been tapered down dramatically with these Arctic blasts and winter storms. So that's a really good question. We'll see how much of that can recover and fuel it, because if it ends up running below normal for the spring season, that will certainly reduce your severe potential. But it's still too early to make a call on that. Still way, way too early. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there for now. I got to run and get ready for a meeting here. But I want you guys to know that we're going to be watching these clippers the next couple of days. Again, I don't see anything big with the one for tomorrow. And we'll just monitor the setup for Sunday and Monday. Needs more time in the oven. We'll see how it trends. But at least, hey, there's more 40s showing up than there are 20s for highs. So that in itself is at least baby steps. We're heading in the right direction. All right, you guys behave yourselves. Stay warm. Check on your friends and neighbors. Please be easy on the pets. Don't let your dog stay out there too long. Too cold for that. Put the sweaters on them. See you soon.